So I'm going to make a special project for my Taekwondo instructor that's spent a lot of time and dedication to his craft and has helped a lot of people. So I'm going to go ahead and make a special platter for him, and I'm just going to go ahead and show you the techniques that I used. So I'm going to go ahead and take this piece of maple that I have, and I'm going to cut it square, find the center, cut it round, and then take it over to the lathe, and I'll show you a few pictures and video as I progress. So here I have the board that I marked, found the center on. After I cut it square, I found the center. Then I drilled a hole in the center that I'm going to put a screw on to mount it onto my lathe. And now on the bandsaw, I'm just going to cut the corners off to make it easier to make it round. So now I have it mounted on the lathe. You can see down here the screw passed into the face of the board, and now I'm going to just take and make it round on the lathe, and it'll start taking shape. Okay, now we have it round, so the side we're looking at here is going to be the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the foot for that, which I'll then turn around and mount on the lathe facing the other direction, and then finish the bowl from there. But for now, we'll go ahead and cut the foot in here, and then I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done. See that I have the foot cut here, which is a recess, which is deep enough to accept my chuck. So now I'm just going to sand that a little bit, and then I'll start shaping from here on out, which will be turned over and will become the bottom of the platter. Okay, I've sanded the bottom recess, and now I'm going to start shaping the bottom of the bowl. There, I'm getting pretty close to the final shape of the bottom. I'll just do a little bit more shaping, then I will sand it and apply the finish. Okay, that's been sanded up to 400 grit. I'll apply some sanding sealer and then sand it a little bit more and then put the finish on it. The sanding sealer has raised the grain a little bit, so I'll sand it a little bit more, smooth that out, and then we'll apply the finish. Okay, I'm sanded down to 400 grit. applied the sanding sealer, sanded again, sanded back up to 400 grit, and now I'm ready to put on the finish, OB Shine Juice. I don't know if you can notice, but there's a lot of gloss on the bottom of that. It's very shiny. I had mentioned earlier that I use something called OB Shine Juice. It's a mixture of shellac, denatured alcohol, and linseed oil. You want to apply it so it gets quite hot, and you'll see here on my towel that I've been using to apply it, it gets hard and crusty. That's just from the heat. So when you're putting it on, it gets very, very hot on your fingers, but you try and push through a little bit, generates a little bit of heat, and that's where we start to see some of this gloss that you see here. And now I'm ready to take it off the lathe, flip it over, mount it on the bottom, and start working on the other side of the platter. So you can see here I flipped it around, and you can see the hole in the top, right in the middle where the screw was that I mounted on the lathe in the first place. Now it's mounted on the recess it was had on the bottom of the platter. So now I'll start working this side. So you can see there actually that I've just gotten to the bottom of where the screw was and mounted it on the other side. So that's probably about as deep as I want to go on this side. So now I'll just start rounding it out and matching the profile that's on the bottom. Okay, I'm pretty pleased with the shape of the interior of the platter. And now I'll repeat the process of sanding it. Sanding sealer, seal it some more, and then apply the finish. Oh, with one special treatment on this side, which is will be a surprise. So if you remember, I had said I was going to do something a little special with this bowl. So here I have a water slide decal, which I'm going to mount here on the bowl. Again, this is an appreciation gift for my sensei. So I have this Ying and Yang symbol. This is what they call a water slide decal. They're reminiscent of the tattoos maybe you remember as a child that you soak in water and then peel off. So they're quite thin, and I'll put it on here and then coat it with some glue, polyacrylic glue, and that will protect it so that make it food safe so that nothing will damage the decal, and then I'll apply a regular finish over top of that. So I'm going to go ahead and soak this in water, then it has to dry, and then I'll come back the next morning and we'll go ahead and install that on the platter. So I'm just going to go ahead now and put this in the warm water, and it only needs to soak for a very short period of time, a few seconds, and then I can take it out and remove the backing and then let it dry. So here I've removed it. I'll just let this dry, and then like I say, we'll come back tomorrow and take a look at it. Good morning. So this has dried overnight, and you can see here that the what was clear has dried white, fairly white. So I'm going to go ahead and put one final coat on. It's got a couple coats now of a polyurethane. I'm going to put one more coat on, which should give me complete coverage, and I'll put this one on with the lathe. Okay, we'll let that dry, and that should be the last coat of polyurethane, and then we'll switch to a more durable coating. So here's the finished platter. I'm just going to go ahead and buff it now on the lathe. So I'll just go ahead and buff it. There's 3 different wheels with 3 different grits, like 2,000, 4,000, and 8,000 grit. So I'll go ahead and buff that, and then once that's done, the platter will be complete.